All right, we're recording officially this time.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are with Tracy Refior, Airport Authority candidate. The editorial board interviewed him yesterday, and due to editor error, we failed to get the video saved. So Tracy has graciously agreed to redo the interview with just me here. So Tracy, we will just launch into the questions. First off, what prompted your decision to run for Airport Authority, and what's prepared you to serve?
Running for Airport Authority because I feel that I can help the community, the airport, general operations, as well as maybe thinking outside the box. And my accreditations, I'm a financial advisor for more than 28 years. I've had rental properties almost my entire life. I own and operate the highest secured storage facility in the Midwest called Always Safe Storage. So I'm very familiar with contracts, leases, and day-to-day business operations.
All right, thank you. What are the most important issues facing the Airport Authority in your mind right now?
This new $55 million expansion is the biggest thing, and getting people back using LNK.
All right. And just to add on to that question, and this is a little bit like the movie Groundhog Day for you, I'm sure. The expenditures, as we discussed yesterday, originally the new board was going to be making a decision on this airport project. The old board has made the decision, so you're walking into it. As a new member of the Airport Authority, what would you see your, what's your role in the project?
That's a great question. I think the role is to make sure that it gets done the way it's supposed to get done without having more expenditures. I don't know, as I said yesterday, I don't have a problem with expanding or redoing the airport. The last time we did it was 1972. I have a problem of putting a 3% tax on the people of Lincoln when we're already in the middle of a pandemic and people are struggling. So I would say, as I'm walking in to this new board, is to make sure that that 55 million is adhered to and it doesn't go to 60 or 70 million.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned the pandemic. Next question is, what do you see as the short-term and long-term impacts created by COVID in the last year of just lots of news and lots of events? And how does the Airport Authority help deal with those impacts?
Well, I think the greatest impact, and we're off 70% for travel. We got to find a way to get the people back to traveling, not just business, but also leisure destinations, which brings more destinations and smaller planes to give us more options. Also, the biggest problem is people are scared to travel with the COVID, and we need to have an open conversation as far as how to get these people and reopen the economy. That includes Lincoln itself, instead of having the emergency declaration in place, which I suppose in the mayor's eyes, she needed that ED in place because she picked up another 45 million from the feds last week. So if I could say anything as far as to help the airport authority or the city of Lincoln, instead of giving money to other nonprofits like Lincoln Littles, who already has 1.5 million in their checking account, why not give 20 or 30 million to the Lincoln Airport Authority to build their project, redo roads, without putting an extra burden on the taxpayer?
Okay. I'm going to try a little different way of asking this question yesterday, because I think you pointed out sort of, after you asked me to clarify it, I think I saw where you were coming from. But with the money planned for this airport project and the things that are in the works, reconfiguring TSA, things like that, are there things that you think should be addressed by this money that aren't, or are there higher priority things that should be done as part of this project and other things that should not be done?
Well, I mean, I think some of the things that need to be done is making sure things are in place for proper maintenance. They employ 85 to 90 employees. We just bought a $600,000 sweeper. That being said, as far as maintenance of that equipment, I mean, not just to beat the living tar out of it, but as far as, is there a maintenance schedule? Is there better leases to be had? Maybe partner up with Duncan and help them maintain the runways or buildings. Like I said yesterday, there is nothing in writing that shows what the airport authority actually does. There's no job description. And I think that needs to be taking place. I'm the only candidate for the airport authority that filed the C1 accountability disclosure form. Didn't have to, but again, I think we need to have transparency, figure out these connections between people and different businesses, and tell us as far as what is actually going on budget wise. The budget is roughly 20 million with the airport, give or take $1 million. They make monies off of farm ground. They make monies off of leases. They make monies off of landing fees. I think it's very interesting that the way these contracts work is, let's say Dave owns United. I call Dave. I said, what do you need to fly out of Lincoln to service Lincoln? Dave says, well, I need a guarantee of how many people are going to use my services on a daily, monthly, yearly basis. So I say to Dave, well, I can guarantee you 100 people a day, hypothetically. But what happens if only 50 people fly that day? What happens to those other 50 seats? We, the taxpayer, pays those other 50 seats to that airline because we made a guarantee of how many people would use our services. My point being is, instead of doing a guarantee, why can't we do a revenue share?
Okay. To get back to the issue of transparency, obviously a newspaper is one of the biggest fans of transparency out there, but I know that businesses, they don't want to divulge competitive secrets and things like that. How does, how do you navigate that with transparency as far as, what's your philosophy? Where's the balance? I mean, you're a business person, so you understand the importance of privacy in some negotiations, I'm sure. So how do you strike that balance?
You mean as far as with, let's say, an airline and the airport authority, or? Yeah.
Well, the example that you just gave is a good one. I don't know that United would be thrilled to have the details of everything or any, out there in the public. I don't know, maybe they would.
I would assume that when they file their K reports with the Fed and the Security Exchange Commission, that a lot of those things are already transparent as far as the income. Maybe the intricate details of a contract, that might be something that could be negotiated, but I don't see why not. Why wouldn't a business want to say, well, we're only making, hypothetically, we're only making $50 on when we land a plane in Lincoln. I don't know what the number is, because again, it's not transparent. But there's other things. I mean, why couldn't we? I mean, everybody remembers Blockbuster, right? Why back in the day, there was a lot of mom and pop VHS movie rentals. So Blockbuster really changed the game, meaning these mom and pop shows, these stores had a deal with the movie makers, and they had to buy a copy. Let's say, I don't know, your favorite movie, let's say Terminator, right? They had to pay $75 or $100 or whatever it is to the movie production company to get one copy of Terminator. So if they bought 3 copies, they had to pay roughly what, 75 times 3, and that would show as far as how much money they would put out for that movie. So then comes Blockbuster. Blockbuster didn't do that. They actually got a hold of the production companies and said, instead of us buying each copy, why can't we do a revenue share? So instead of costing $75 per copy, it costs $2 per copy, plus a percentage of the money that they made in rentals. Well, that changed the game. That broke almost everybody across the board. And that's why Blockbuster continued. Well, now today, it's another game. So Redbox steps in, and everybody realizes, well, for $1, I can rent a DVD, and I can have it mailed to me. I don't have to go to Blockbuster. So it broke Blockbuster. There's only one Blockbuster left in the entire United States, and that's Great Bend, Oregon. That's it. So my point being with all that is there's better ways, in my opinion, to write a contract and get these smaller airlines on board, because we don't get Fed money like Essential Air Service, like Grand Island gets, to compete. So we have to think outside the box. And like I said yesterday, maybe partner up with a travel agency and ask them questions. What do you see people using LNK to fly out of? Is it more destinations? It's always about the price. People go to Omaha because it's $150 or $200 per flight cheaper than Lincoln. But why can't we think outside the box? Why can't we say, well, we'll give you free or substantially reduced parking, and we'll get you on that flight like Domino's. I'll guarantee you on that flight in 30 minutes. Now that's subject to do with, you know, the feds, because you got airport security and whatnot. But I feel with this current board, they believe if they build a $55 million structure, people will come use their airport. It doesn't work that way. Grand Island has a 25 to 30% size of our terminal, and they're smoking us. People don't go to an airport and say, oh yeah, look at that beautiful structure. Nope. They go there because it's about the price. But we also need to use Rachel Barth, the marketing director, and convey the idea that people's time is worth something. Instead of traveling 2 hours to round trip Omaha and spend another 2 hours waiting for your plane, why can't we utilize the facilities that we got and And so let's say we're $50 higher than Omaha instead of being 150. Why can't we revenue share with these airlines instead of guaranteeing them people?
Well, you you sort of anticipated the next question, but that's not surprising since we did this yesterday. And you answered part of it. I was going to ask about travelers shopping around and what can be done to help the airlines serving the airport. You talked about parking. You talked about focusing on time. Those are two good answers. And if that's what you got, we can skip this question. If you had anything else you wanted to add, you'd be welcome to.
Well, I mean, the airlines, what they care about, obviously, again, it's always about the money. They're already struggling. We're already 60, 70% off of travel because of the pandemic. Now with the most recent, the people are talking about these COVID passports. These airlines are not going to go for it because they're already way off their bottom lines. They can only get so much money from the Fed. And then if people put a COVID restriction on them, like a COVID passport, for instance, all that's doing is cutting their knees out from underneath them again, because you're going to limit how many people can fly or people that would travel, period. So, I mean, the things to help the airlines with is to, again, make it more conducive for them to fly out or use LNK services instead of Grand Island or Epley. We don't need 100 passenger jet right now. We need these 50 or 75 seaters. And as we grow and the economy picks up, then yes, we can change those planes at any given time.
Kent yesterday asked an interesting question about how you see the maintenance and use of the land the airport has. What thoughts do you have about better ways to maintain or use I believe you said it was 5,500 acres yesterday.
That's right. It's 5,500 acres, and they do have farm ground out there that they farm, that they contract out. But the biggest renter or tenant is Duncan. I don't know if anybody has ever actually sat down with Duncan and asked them, what kind of things do you need or would we be willing to partner up with LNK as far as ground maintenance? Maybe they do some of that ground maintenance. Maybe they take care of some of those runways. I don't know. Because again, there's not enough transparency as far as the day-to-day operations of what's going on with the airport authority.
Okay, last question for you. Same as the last question from yesterday. What didn't we ask that you'd like to talk about? You got anything?
That's a great question. I don't think there's anything that we didn't cover.
No, we've done it twice now. So
yeah, I think I'm the only candidate that filed the disclosure form. I'm the only candidate that has licenses that can actually offer advice on investments. Now, my broker dealer, we're still working through a few things, because what they don't want is me to sit in front of Dave and say, well, Dave, I can't help you with some investments, but I have these airport authority bonds to sell you. So we have to be careful as far as, certain recommendations, I guess you could say, in my line of work as a financial advisor. But ultimately, I think we should have a lot more transparency with the airport authority and with the public. Like the budget, for instance. No doubt on a monthly basis when the airport authority meets, no doubt they look at the expenditures, not just salaries, but other things that they're paying for. What's the actual revenue? Because that parking garage was built with revenue bonds. So what's the revenue off that parking garage, for instance? It has to produce X amount of dollars to pay those revenue bonds, but what if we reduce it down to $1 a day? Would that be enough to pay the revenue bonds? Instead of $5, $7, $8, $10 a day parking, why can't we do $1? We know we have to generate X amount of dollars for a revenue bond, or we would be in non-compliance. But what's that number? That's also part of the transparency.
All right. Well, Tracy, I appreciate the time you spent going over this again. I appreciate your answers. And
Hopefully this one will stick.
yeah, well, it's still recording, so I'm going to go save it right now. We're going to be good.
All right.
All right. Thanks a ton, Tracy.
Sure. Bye.
All right.